Cool. Take it up.
Okay. Thank you once more. So about me, my name is Isaac Adariku. Like Maureen said, I'm from Nigeria, and I have about 4 years experience in Flutter, general software engineering, but 4 years in Flutter. So previously I worked with FitStack, the owners of Stack, which we'll be looking at today. And currently I'm leading the Flutter developers at Reflection.app, a journaling app in the US. So let's quickly look why we are here today. We're actually here because of Flutter. For those that are not familiar with Flutter, or for those that are just seeing Flutter today, Flutter have revolutionized our cross-platform app development. It has empowered a lot of developers to build stunning high-performance apps for any platform with any screen, just all from a single code base. So, and today I'm privileged to join the Flutter Kisumu community to share about Stack. As you can see, this is the picture I got from the internet. So these are their beautiful faces. I'm joining them here today to share about Stack. And also, to be precise, why am I here today is because we all want to actually build high-performing and maintainable Flutter apps, which is actually the goal for all our Flutter apps. But before jumping into this, I think we should look at some of the status quo that we have at the moment in the community. One of which is the Flutter community wants us to actually build with best practice, but developers just want to build beautiful and awesome apps without caring about best practice. So today we'll be exploring how we can strike a balance between this best practice and also why we focus on our creative app development. We'll be leveraging the right tools and seeing how we can streamline our workflows, making our app more beautiful, and why we keep best practice in check. Another status quo is there are so many terms, so many theories. You see architecture, separation of concerns, single responsibility. Well, actually, there's no clear guide on an actionable way to apply this. So for the architecture, using Stack, we realize it's just a fancy way of saying separate your code into components that grow independently of each other. So we'll see the difference between all this in action, knowing the difference between a UI and state code. We'll understand the separation of UI and state code, and we'll see all this in action. Another status quo we have is the state management. Everywhere you go to, beginners, mid-level, senior, everybody's talking about state management. Well, actually, this is just one piece of the puzzle, and it's actually crucial for every aspect of app development, but it's just one piece. So we'll zoom out a bit. We'll go out of the old Flutter development and take a broader perspective on how the Flutter app development, why we are considering state management. We'll also look at the equal vital aspect of solutions that contribute to the success of a maintainable app. We'll explore and also strike a balance between this state management and other components that make up your Flutter app to be well-rounded and maintainable. Also, another status quo we have is Flutter developers don't want to code with traffic lights. I know we just want to like ship our app, get the code working, test it manually, and release the app out. But today we will learn how to encourage each other to approach a traffic light coding aspect, where you write a test that fails with the red light, and you write only enough code to make the red light pass. You don't write code that is out of the line to red. Hello, okay. So we'll also look at refactoring, where we'll review the code you wrote and we'll improve on it. So whether you are a beginner or a seasoned developer, or just you are a pro, The red-green refactor is really a game-changing technique that will take your coding skills to a new height. So while we do this, we'll look at how we'll avoid adding extra unrequested functionality. We'll solve problems that improve our code, and will ensure our code is kept healthy. So I think last week, around at Flutter Conference 2023, the founder of Flutter, Eric, is leading Shorebird Dev at the moment. He said high quality multi-platform apps should be the default. There should not be any, otherwise it should just be the default for you to create high quality multi-platform app, regardless of if you are coding individually or you are coding with a team of developers. This should actually be the default state for our app. I think why I mentioned this is because Flutter is actually going everywhere. Every company is turning to multi-platform solutions, banks, industry. So there's actually a big market, and they will need high quality apps. So if you are coding individually, this should be your default mindset while coding. So, and why we build high quality, why we build high quality from the start. So this is where Stack actually comes in. Stack has shown that high quality Flutter apps with high quality code is possible. Not just high quality, but while we are building, we are automatically having a large scale product. So Flutter Stack is actually the true Flutter framework for production. It simplifies the development and maintenance of your production Flutter apps. It's actually built by the FitStack team and the community itself, led by GDE Dan from South Africa. So the core focus of Stack itself is for production and to empower Flutter developers with tools, conventions for creating scalable, testable, and maintainable code for you and your team. So you get this by running on production while you build with productivity. While your app is running in production with confidence, you build with productivity by focusing on building awesome apps while Stack handle the boilerplate and repetitive tasks. We can all agree that development involves a lot of repetitive tasks and also boilerplate. So Stack does all this for you using a unique approach to the MVVM-based architecture. So by actually following the MVVM pattern, Stack ensures a structured architecture that simplifies code organization, readability. It makes it more manageable for large projects. You don't actually have to keep up with all these patterns. As you run your Stack app, it flows as you build your app. The setup and techniques keep you in check. And also the MVVM architecture is actually designed to make unit testing any part of your business logic as easy as possible. But not just Stack. Stack is coming with a Stack CLI, which is actually our superpower. If you are a new or existing user of Stack, you don't have to worry much about the setup anymore. Previously, we manually set it up, we set up and go over additional setup. But with the Stack CLI as our superpower, we'll effortlessly scaffold our new Flutter app, eliminating all those setup headache, and you enjoy building while Stack does all the magic of setting up high quality code for you. So to actually get started, we install Stack globally. For you to do this, you have to ensure that you have Flutter already installed on your app. So if you want to try Stack today, as a beginner, you have to install Flutter at first before running this command. Next, to create your Stack app, you just write this command, Stack creates app, then the name of your app. You can add other arguments, probably maybe the organization or any other argument you feel like. But this will actually create a Stack template for you. And we can use our favorite command, Flutter run, to run the app. So if you run the Stack templates, you should have something like this, which is a loading the startup view, and also you get to see just a simple counter app with bottom sheets and indicator to have bottom sheets and also dialogue. But we'll be looking at this in a quick demo, but let's quickly look how does this actually work before the demo section. So the way Stack work is, first of all, it gives you ability to organize your code. Stack provides a structured architecture, like I mentioned, that simplifies code organization. So if you remember, or when you're starting Flutter, you always worry about where do I keep certain files, where do I keep this, where do I do this. But for those that use Stack, it has been simplified so that you know where to actually keep things. It has a clear organization structure. So even though you're onboarding new devs, they just have to know the names to read, to know the names of where to keep those files. It follows a layer first architecture, structure, sorry. And also you can actually use a featured first if you want, or any, but it follows a layer first, and it's clear and organizing. If you look at this, you can actually see where to actually keep the assets that are generated, the constant files, services, models, and what we use daily on our Flutter app. Another is the dependency inversion, which is one of the major goals of software architecture. One of these is called loose coupling, where objects are independent. Without inverting your dependency, you cannot reach that point. So there are actually two ways to do that. There's one, the dependency injection, where you simply pass the dependency through a class constructor, as you can see. So this is just one way of doing DI, but Stack makes use of service locator. So Stack uses the service locator, maybe until we get macros, we'll still be using service locator so instead of us using the dependency injection, we ask for the dependency from our objects that either knows how to construct the dependency or has a reference to it. So if you look below, you can see this is a Stack app, which is under a file known as app. So to register a dependency, there's this, using the Stack CLI, we do Stack create service. If you create a pay Stack service, you can specify which type of dependency you are adding. Stack automatically adds this file for you and add it to the dependency. So you don't need to worry how to register this. And underneath, it makes use of get it for a service locator. So to use a dependency is just simply after you create the service file, you call the, you get it, definer, you name you name your variable, then you use the locator to actually get that service. Another we'll be looking at is the navigation solution. So Stack comes with a group of services to help simplify development, one of which is the navigation solution. With this, you register your routes. Your routes can be customized based on the platform, either material routes, Cupertino routes, or even custom transitions if you have one. All these are accessible in the view models and services through the service locator. To use the service, the navigation, you just simply call the locator of the navigation service, and Stack automatically generates easy names for you to use for navigation. So as you can see, you have replace with home view, which is clear for onboarding new devs and even existing senior devs. You make use of naming conventions that are clear, navigation service.back. So another, again, is the state management. So Stack actually use a simple view to view model relationship that allows us to perform state management without a lot of boilerplate. The idea actually for Stack is to completely separate our state from our UI, allowing us to easily test our logic and also the UI when we want to test widgets. So Stack uses a Stack view, and the goal of the Stack view is to actually bind our view model to our UI. So this actually allows us to separately have a state code and logic code, which is not in our UI. So to create a Stack view, you do Stack create view. So the counter is a view we create. So If you run this, you get a generated view and view model. For the view model, there are several types of view model in Stack, but the most basic is just the one, the class that extends the base view model. The base view model contains all techniques that you need to run a normal states management in your app. So for this counter example, you see that we store an integer that counts up when you hit the increment counter function. So once there's a change in the incremental counter function, this function rebuild UI calls the builder function in the view model and it's rebuilds the UI for you. So it's basically what we have here. The view model builder creates our view model. Stack passes the view model to our builder function. The builder function creates our UI and the user interacts with the UI. So it simply makes everything easy. With this process, you can actually manage 100% of all your state code without ever even having to write a state-related code in your view file. You have a clear separation of consigns. You have, which is actually one of the best starting points for a maintainable app. So one again is the startup logic. The startup logic comes with functionality that helps you run all what you required commonly in your app. So you need a place to run code before the app launches. You need navigations, you need login, you need to set up some external services like maybe intercom, dynamic links. So Stack provides this view for you to actually do all this. So when you build a Stack CLI app, you get this automatically. You get the view and the view model. So you run all your code in the startup logic. So if we look at what we have here, the user opens the app, the startup view shows up after the splash screen, then you run all your startup logic. Then we have a check in the startup logic where we check if the user is logged in, yes, go to the home view, otherwise go to the login view. So if we were to see this in a code in Stack, we just have to write these lines of code in the view model, where you have your, we get the authentication service. Remember, as the app starts, it runs the startup view. So the run startup logic is executed and it checks if the user is logging in the service, navigate to the home view, otherwise replace with the login view. So this is like how simple Stack make everything is for you. And we also have functionalities like the dialog UI builders. When you want to create a UI, you just run this command. It's scaffold a UI for a dialog UI for you, and you interact with it anywhere in your app. Easy to create dialogues, and also bottom sheets is not excluded. So it creates all this in the UI folder and also register everywhere you need to use the bottom sheet. Also, there's the robot unit testing. We know that testing is actually important to ensure quality applications, but knowing which test to actually invest in, make sure you spend your time very well in the team or individual developers. So like I mentioned previously, the MVVM pattern makes unit testing easy, and Stack auto-generates test files for you. This will actually encourage you to take part in it to ensure your app is reliable and the testing is unique. So let's quickly jump into a quick demo section to see this. So I have my terminal here. I've already actually installed Stack, but if you follow up, you see you have to install Stack at first. So let's run the Stack creates app. I think my first app, yeah. So I hope you can see.
Yes.
So yeah, so Stack is actually, when we run this command, it's actually generating, it's adding all the Stack magic, generating all these files you need, that you need to run the Stack app. So why it does that? So it's generating, compiling everything you need, and also setting up the project. So I think it's done. So we can actually go into the app. And you can actually run from here, the Flutter run, but I like to, let me open it up in VS Code so we can all see. So this is just a basic Flutter app. As you can see, there's no difference between it. It's not actually changing anything. It's just adding some config files which you will use, which can be customized to your need. And also it's adding the necessary package you need, which is the stack service, the build runner, the stack generator, and Mockito that we use for testing to mock our tests. So it's just adding the basic files for you. And with this, we can actually choose to run this app. Let me run it, okay. So let me run the app so you see. So while this is running, we can quickly look at the structure I said. So when you go to your app files, to your app, you get to see we have two views, which is coming by default, the startup view and the home view. So you can see all are registered in routes. Then there are dependencies that comes in with Stack to help you easily work, which is navigation, dialogue, and bottom sheet. So all this comes along with it. There's also, there's the bottom sheet, which you can register here. There's dialogues, and there are also other functionalities like the logger, if you want a logger, or maybe you want some other customization. So our Stack app is up. So what you are seeing here is just a scaffolded Stack app. So it's easily showing you that you can show a dialogue, then you can show a bottom sheet. So all this is our home view. When we go back to our to the startup view model, you get to see it replaced with the home view. And if you look here, this is just a basic UI. There's no state code here. There's no logic here. You're just using, it's just running as it builds the view model, it's running the startup logic. And these are our logic here, which it's easily testable under our tests. So for the home view, if you look here for the home view, it generates tests for you to easily look at it and also follow up for it. So when you can actually test your bottom sheets without writing any widget tests. You just have to verify that this is code and you show bottom sheet. So let's quickly create a Stack bottom sheet, which you can see. So here for the bottom sheet, we have the notice sheet. So we want to create Stack create. Let's say bottom sheet. Let's call it the Kisumu community. So if you see, Stack is creating the bottom sheet, and it will help us to run our builder and also generate all the necessary files we need. What we will just have to do is to come into our bottom sheet and maybe rename it to maybe Kisumu community. Yeah. So so to use this bottom sheet, we just go to where we want in our view model, and we can rename it to what we want. So if I hot refresh and sorry, let me see. Okay, let me restart this. Sorry, coming. So let me use this opportunity to run the test so you see. Let me go to the view model, the home view model, because I make some little changes there. So I'm expecting this test to not pass. I'm expecting this test to not pass. So let me stop running this and run this test. So I'm expecting this test to not pass. So with this, there is assurance that I've made changes, maybe your team member or something make a changes. So if you look here, I have to add this because I make that changes in the home view. So it's already keep you check a little as long you don't get to clear this test, because I think when we run our Flutter app, the first thing we do is actually run to clear the test. So already this keeps you in check. And I think when you want to test any other function, you just go to the stack, and there is stack help that you can use to see all the functionalities that you want. You can choose which of them you want, maybe create, delete, generate, updates. So this is just a short demo for the stack. And like I mentioned, the stack CLI is actually our superpower. And for you, stack is everything that you need to build a production Flutter app for you or your team. But actually, not actually stack alone. So we also need analytics. We should be able to balance everything up for performance and also maintainable. We need analytics. We should be able to track the stability and see how our users are using our app. We can use example of this is the Firebase analytics. We also need remote logs to monitor the internals of our app in production, to see what is happening, which a Google Cloud logger can do for you, and there are other examples there. So there's also, we need crash reporting to get notified. So as you set up your app, you need to put all this in check. The Firebase Crashlytics can help you get this notified when there's an event. There's also real-time patches that we need, the ability to push bug fixes to users instantly. Luckily, we have Shorebird working on code push for Flutter, so we can fix bug in production. So we also need bug reporting, which lets users send details of when they experience a bug. Example is like a test flight, beta testing environment that will get to see clear reports of bugs. So to actually recap everything I've said, building high quality Flutter app should be the default. Flutter is actually growing rapidly, and companies are all moving to multi-platforms. So there's a lot of opportunities, and we should build with quality to be a successful Flutter developer. And we should have it in mind that high quality Flutter app should be the default. Also, we should stop discussing state management. Let's focus on other things, which is code file structure, navigation, layers of separation. Our UI code should not mix with our state code. Our state code should not mix with the business code and even the application code. So we should also discuss dependency inversion, responsive UI building, and not just state management alone. So for everyone here, Flutter is the future. So it's time to still learn, time to build right, and time to grow with the community. So I'll leave the floor. I've been talking, and also remember I'm a human, so you ask simple questions.
Well, that was amazing talk. I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for the talk. So to the audience, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and then we'll use the queue to go through them. But first question first is, you talked about dependency inversion. What's the difference between dependency inversion and dependency injection?
Okay, dependency inversion is just actually is a fancy name, but there are actually two types. Dependency inversion is just a fancy name for either dependency injection or service locators. So the dependency injection is just where we do normally by creating a constructor, passing that dependency in it. So if you look back to these lines of code, sorry, I think I have it. Yeah. So this is a fancy name, which we use in the software world. So this is actually injection, where you pass your dependency through a constructor. We also have different type of injection, which is the class injection, the method injection, where we can pass a dependency. And also I think we have parameter injection, where maybe I want to check a date, but I don't want to actually use the date. I pass it through my parameters. So we are just, it's just a fancy way to actually use dependency injection. Also, service locator. Service locator are possible through get it injectable. So this is what Stack make use of. But hopefully when we have micros, I think there will be no need for all this anymore. I hope you are clear.
Yes, sure. Yeah, that's awesome. We are clear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And Frank, I think Frank raised his hand, so feel free to go ahead, Frank.
Hello, Isaac. Thank you very, very much for the presentation. It was really insightful. Yeah. So I just want to ask if you showed us that Stack can handle our navigation for us, right? But should in case we don't want to use the navigator from Stack, can we use Stack and a package like auto routes, or would there be any kind of conflict?
Actually, there's no conflict. You can actually use what you have, but the issue there is you'll be bringing UI code. I believe the auto route will need a context. You'll be bringing UI code to your view models or your services, which is actually not part of there are rules in the architecture. I think when I share the link, you get to see there are rules in the architecture. You don't bring UI code, which is context, build context and all. So this is why Stack realized because with over 30 mobile apps that is on store at the moment and built with Stack in the agency, in the FlutterStack agency, we realize that navigation should be part of your business logic and not actually a UI code. So you can actually use GoRouter, you can actually use anyone, but I don't think there's any scenario that will not really match up with this navigation service that Stack is providing. So except you have one, but outside that, I think with all what we've built, we've seen that the navigation service should be part of your business code, because when you do some certain things, you need to know if there's a navigation that happened or not. Yeah, so you can actually use anyone you like, but you at some point you have to be passing a context to use that. Yes.
I see. Then lastly, sorry, what is micro? You mentioned that we will not need dependency injection when micro comes out or something.
Yeah, the Flutter and Dart team are actually working on macros. So macros are just if you do C# development and I don't know, like if you do VB.net and all those Microsoft, you understand macros are just you just annotate it with what you want and you get injection automatically without you having to do generating and all. You don't have to generate those dependency, you just annotate it with what you want. Maybe the way we annotate using injectable and it helps us to generate, we don't have to do that anymore. We just annotate at lazy singleton and it make that class a singleton. By default, we don't have to do any other thing. So that is what, when micros come, I think it will, all those setup will be reduced.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cool. Thanks, Frank. So someone on the chat is asking, I don't know his name, 10240. What's the difference between state, business, and application code? Yeah.
Okay. So I think there's an article for this already, but let me just quickly make mention of it. So your state code has to do with things like when I press a checkbox, should it is sent to the view model? Should the checkbox work? Like when I type things and I get this text feed, all these checkbox radio buttons are all state code that you need to, like when you tap, you need to see an action maybe immediately or something. So these are all state code. The business logic involves where we, let me give an example of a cat. So you add an item to a cat, that item is added. So when you add another item again to the cat, the business logic tells the cat that, hey, don't add this item twice. Actually increase it if it's the same item. So this is like a business logic. This is like how the business want to run they want to like increase the same product twice and they don't want to add it twice. So application code is codes that deals with maybe you want to check what version of the app is and all. So all those application codes are around in the services where you can use. There are many examples. So this is just what I have for now. I have links to the article once we are done with questions, so you can read more to get enlightened. I hope that explains it. 1024.
I hope so too. So I think Caleb, maybe if you could unmute and ask your question. But yeah,
I think I'm reading it. Could you explain further on how one can leverage on Stack for writing unit testing and testing in general? So like I mentioned, if you were here before, I said you should code with red, green, and we should code with traffic light. So as soon as you create your view, maybe you run the Stack create your view, you get to see the view models and the view. So before you write any code in the view model, you can quickly rush to your let me show you just this example. So Stack creates the view model for you and also creates maybe helpers if you have helpers. So once you have this code, probably I want to call a new bottom sheet here. I want to write a new function. Before I write this function, I should come here. Maybe this is a separate group. I write this group which shows the bottom sheet, and also I just write a code that fails. So let me make a quick example. So when called should show the bottom sheet using Kisumu. So I'll be writing all this, and so probably I want a custom function which will show Kisumu. Sorry, bottom sheets. So let me say I have this function. Already this is showing a red line, meaning that the function is not available. So I have to actually go to my to this place to write this function. So I have this function, there's no code in it. Sorry, let me see. Okay. Sorry, it should be here. Show custom sheet. So it should be here. This code actually is empty at the moment, and you have this. And what we do, you actually write this. Then when you run these lines of code, you notice that the test will actually fail because you have a red first and test failing because you don't have this in the logic. But when you add that logic by default, when you add this logic by default in it, you get to see that your test will pass. So this is just for a simple scenario like bottom sheets and all. But when you get to business logic, where you get to write unique logic, it's always good for you to consider all your tests. It will keep you in check. You'll notice that this function right now, I'm not adding any other thing. If any day I choose to add something else before the bottom sheet, automatically this test gets to fail. So it keeps you in check. And also, I think when you try doing this little by little, you cultivate the habits. It cannot just happen at once because you get to feel like, why do I even need this? It's not even needed at all. I can even manually test this. But I think for high quality and maintainable apps, we need to start cultivating this habit in the community, and it will help us when Flutter grows to a point that all companies are using multi-platform. So Caleb, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think he's muted, but I hope it does too. So I had also another question. So I saw when you are trying to create the bottom sheet on the app, you had to run stacked something command. So does it mean that every piece of UI that you need to create, let's say if you have other sections of the app, you have to run the stack to create such a feature, or maybe you want to create or add tables, so you have to write stack create tables and so on. Do you always have to run that command to create a new functionality?
No, you don't have to. You can actually do it manually. Like before, we do all this manually. But when you do this, you have to come under here to add this manually. Like maybe probably you need something like bottom sheets or services. You have to come here manually adding all this. Then you have to run like the Flutter run, build runner, all those code that we were using before. But as default, Stack will just do all that for you. If you look, when I run this command, the stack create bottom sheet, it created these files for us, the test file. It created the actual view model. It created the sheets, and it's applied the modification to the dependency. It's automatically add this for us. It's add the imports where we need this. And also it formats all the bottom sheets, the scaffolded one, and it's also helps us to run this command. So the CLI just make everything easy for us when you are using a Stack app, and that is just what it does. So I think any scenario you think of, maybe widgets, I think under the crate, you get to see widgets. But if there's any custom solution that is not available, this is where contribution comes in, and we appreciate it.
Okay, cool, get it. Yeah. But for the test, does it just create the test file, or you have to also modify the test?
Yeah, it creates just a sample test file. Outside the home view model, every other test file is just a sample test file. You have to like start creating what you want. As long as you follow the traffic pattern, you get to quickly write your tests before you add those codes to your view model.
Okay, cool, got it. So yeah, anyone else with any further questions?
Yeah, I think Frank is raising his hand.
Oh, no. I should have lowered my hand since.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, Enos.
Okay, thanks. Isaac, it was a nice presentation. So I had a question, something which interesting that I've heard. So initially I didn't think if it was possible. So there's a concept about instant patches that you have talked about. So my question is it only limited to Stack, or on the previous implementation is possible? And will you kindly elaborate on it?
Okay, sorry, I think I missed a part of the main question. Sorry, please, can you come again?
Okay, so it is about the instant patches. So initially, I didn't think if it was possible for an app on production to be quick fixes to be done while the app has already been published. So is it only limited while using Stack, or on the previous implementation without Stack, also the solution could be applied?
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. So for the instant patches on production, currently, like I said, the founder of Flutter, Eric, he has a company that is building Shorebird, and they're actually building Code Push for Flutter. So Code Push is a new thing for Flutter, but it's also actually available for other native platform and also React Native. So Code Push is just currently is only available for Android. The same code you run, you get to run it. So I think I'll keep a link so that you see a demo for it, and also you can try it out. Shorebird, the name is Shorebird. I have a link for it at the end of the slide, so you can have it and check it out. I think it explains more better, and you also get to see what is possible with it. And secondly, it's not limited to Stack. It's actually open for all of Flutter. So depending on even though you're just using the normal Flutter app to build, you get to use Code Push.
Oh, nice, thanks.
Okay, cool. Thanks. I also had one last question. So can stacked be used on Flutter Web?
Yeah. It's actually one of the exploration now, like a huge exploration. And it also comes with the navigation 2.0. Yeah, so it's actually used in the web. We have Reflection.app running on the web. So it's actually using Stack. And also there's a master course going on from Dan, which is also emphasizing on Stack Web, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I was wondering if it could be used on web as well to help with nested navigation. And speaking of that, I see someone has written the same on the chat. So for the person who asked about navigation, there's no limitation. You can use any package. The suggested implementation is to wrap your package in a service to decouple the package from the application. So as for navigation at the moment, Stacked has 2 navigation services, which only supports navigation API 1.0 and router service, which supports navigation 2.0, recommended for web applications. Okay, cool. Thanks for the information. So
Thanks,
also pseudo one, I don't know why would someone call themselves pseudo one? Anyway, so he's saying that he's here to represent the Flutter nobs. So kindly share links to help start on Stacked. So that's a question to you, Isaac.
Yeah, so I think I have what's next. So if you're just starting with Flutter, you should go to flutter.dev. If you want to learn more about Stack, you visit this link. You can subscribe to the FStack blog. It gives clear architecture guidelines and production techniques. Also, we have the fstack.com, which shares production Flutter techniques. And also you can check out what I'm currently building with Stack, Reflection.app. I lead the team there, so you can check it out. It's available on all platforms, Mac OS, web, or mobile platform. So I think that is it. You can actually follow me on Twitter, check out my GitHub, connect on LinkedIn, and read some of my articles on Medium. And if you want to view this slide, you can actually scan with your phone if you're not making use of it. Thank you for listening. And this slide will be available, sure. So you get to go through it and click on the links.
Cool. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for presenting, Isaac, and thanks for shedding some lights on Stacked package. Never used it. So probably something to explore, and thanks for emphasizing on what we need to do besides arguing about which state we should consider state apps and APIs and all that. So thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you everyone for joining our today's call. It's a great pleasure to have you here today on a Saturday. And I see someone, he's asking, does anyone know of any local jobs opportunities in IT? So this is a broad question. Maybe you can unmute and ask it live here. Probably you can meet your next employer here. So Devin.
Hello, how y'all doing? My name
Hi.
is Devin. My name is Devin Wheeler, and I'm in Kisumu, Kenya. I'm in Kasarani, Kenya right now. And I'm from the States. I'm new here. I've only been here maybe like 2 months. And I was looking for local opportunities in IT. I'm A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certified, and AWS certified. I've spent a lot of time in broadcast television and also in IT proper. And so I was looking for opportunities to network and connect with other people here, and see where the opportunities are, because it seems like a relationship-based country.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for joining today. So feel free to stick along because maybe some opportunities could come here and there. Besides, we also host like physical meetups sometimes. So keep an eye on that. We have other Flutter communities as well. So if you are in Kenya and in Kasarani, there's the Flutter devs community, but they also host online or virtual events unless there's something like a physical event in line. But I think if you want to get in touch with us in regards to these opportunities, feel free to check out our meetup page, Flutter Kisumu or Flutter Devs Kenya, just to get a glimpse of our next upcoming events and all that, and also opportunities for jobs. Yeah, it's a community and we sometimes share opportunities here and there. So if you are part of these groups, then it would be easy to get connected to referrals and all that. But it's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So everyone is asking to connect. So thanks so much. We would share the slides, and just like Isaac has mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to him through his socials, and also feel free to check out the links to the resources he shared with us today. Otherwise, I would wish you a pleasant Saturday and enjoy the rest of your evening. And hopefully you can join us in our next month's Flutter Kisumu meetup. And we're also looking forward to host another physical event, but we'd speak about it and inform you where and the dates. So otherwise, enjoy your Saturday. Have a pleasant evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.